Okay, let's do this. This is disjointed this morning. Afternoon, Mr. Jones. How are you doing? Oh dear. My second monitor has refused to work for my stream PC, so I'm literally using the prompter for OBS and everything else on Windows. So if things don't look right, that'll be why. I'm going to tighten up that a little bit. Okay. What am I doing? Oh. I did a kickboxing class last night and I am extremely tired. So this is this is going to be fun. I'm deliberately stood up as well. So it's that. Okay. Okay, so PBD Gamer helps if I remember who I am. Apparently, you can't put the word creep into a Twitch title; it will prevent it. So that was trying to put that as a stream title today. Failed. Always fun. Oh dear. So I know there's not going to be much discussion. It's the beginning of the stream, but it is something that I want to focus on a little bit this stream. And it's not that I don't want to do any real dev. I will look at code and stuff. That's not the challenge. We'll demonstrate the product. But the last couple of days has really made me realize, as I start to think about what I want to do, how I want to proceed with my project, right? What do I actually need? What do I want to do versus what do I actually need to do? I have a dog crying. Sorry. I'll give her a minute and see if she calms. So oftentimes you start a solo project and you are you don't have much focus. You kind of have a general goal, but really your focus is on just building something, just creating something. And oftentimes solo projects just go away, right? And it's not because you want them to go away, it's because you lose that energy, that momentum, because all of a sudden it starts becoming work. All the fun parts are done, right? So, I mean, that's why I think that stream interactive stream elements, things like that, are so focused on when we're doing development on stream, is because it's kind of like it kind of motivates itself, because there's a need, because there's people who want the thing because they're entertained by it, and there's there's that drive and that focus. But what I'm trying to do here is build a real product. So at some point I'm going to hit that wall of, I've set myself some goals and I've got to put a lot of work into getting them there. And, I can't just get a feature done in a stream sort of thing, right? And of late, most of my development of this product is on stream because it's the time I have available to me. Right, so I'm sharing that time, but it does mean that things like this become necessary, where I do have to kind of stop and pause and take stock of what I do have, what I need, and what I want to do. So I created this article. I'm not going to read through it, but basically what I'm trying to talk about here is, sorry, my dog's going completely crazy crying. The other day I streamed and I set the title as file upload. And I'm saying here in this, and it seemed like a good idea, but when I stopped and thought, it was like, well, and Dota was able to kind of talk it through with me, which was nice. But realistically, I don't need file upload right now. File upload is not going to set the world on fire for this feature. It's just going to help me add more value to the product in terms of presentation. I'm going to be right back because my dog is crying. She doesn't normally do it, so she might need something, so I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Can't ignore the animal when she's crying. That's not fair. Okay, so again, yeah. What I'm saying here is when you're dreaming up features, you have to assign kind of a weight to them, a difficulty, etc. And when you're developing a solo product, it's easy to just go A to B to C to D to E. Just going piece to piece to piece to piece to piece, and it's a great way of developing if you're exploring and you're trying to build something quickly. And oftentimes it will lead to a lot of technical debt because you're just piling code on. But at some point, I have to understand the features I'm building, and I have to understand the need of the features I'm building and the impact of the features I'm building. So I can't just keep going that way. It isn't going to help me to not think about what I need to achieve. So I pause. I think, okay, well, how would I treat this if I was in an actual team, right? What would I do here? And the reality is, I need to get more involved in the whys of something, right? So if I'm asked for a feature, if I'm asked for a piece of work to add a thing to a screen, right? It's not just a standalone thing. As much as I might want it to be, it's not a standalone thing. It does have an impact. It does have foundation. It does have consequence to other parts of the system potentially. And I've got to analyze that. That's my job. My job as a developer is not just to write code, right? If you want to do that, there are positions that do kind of just want developers that just can write code on demand, etc. Right? But those are the systems that you're going to complain about, right? Because you're just adding code. You're copying practices. You're copying procedures. You're not really designing the system. You are building, just adding more technical debt over time. And that might seem like a skeptical outlook on it, but it's true, right? Software development isn't just about writing code. It is about the design. It is about the implementation. It is every component of the system, right? From the discussion of what it could be to the delivery of what it is. And that is software development, right? We talk about the software development lifecycle. Well, that is an iterative process as such, right? It is a continually moving piece, a cycle, right? Which we kind of like in software. Cycles are pretty much one of the things we do love to do. So, I'm building this application. I'm designing this piece. I'm moving forward. I'm trying to, let me see if I can bring Figma up, because I do a little bit more direction starting in there. Right. So I'm trying to build out a design. I'm trying to build out, okay, what is this going to look like, right? Trying to design requirements, etc. What is this like? And the UI generally does drive a lot of what we do with the software, because it is kind of the things we see represent the things we do, hopefully. But it's not all. It's not everything, right? There is a lot more to it than just what you see. You only have to have done a few things like that to know that, yeah, that's just sticking something on a screen is never it. So as much as a PM or a manager might say, well, it's just adding this button, right? It's never just adding this button, right? So I get on to notifications. Now, notifications are a big component of what I want to do. And the reason I got here is because I was looking at this Figma drawing, right? I'm looking at this subscribe. And subscribe is so, the concept is that a user of the system is able to see the other items in the system, right? And if they care about them, they're able to subscribe to those things, right? If they're allowed to see them, right? They are able to subscribe to them. They are able to set notifications. That's kind of my entire thing, because one of the big problems you get with notifications is noise, right? So how do I calm the noise? How do I prevent someone from getting, if they log into the application, right? Of course, I don't have the user available to me because I've chosen random user, emails. Tenant management users. And you'd think I'd know this password by now. Sorry. So I get into here and I get planning items, and I can add planning items, etc. But I don't want to see a million notifications up here, right? I don't want to see, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened. Oh, by the way, this happened. Because over time, you're going to be subscribed to a lot of different things, right? So how do I calm the noise? How do I manage that? And notifications might seem like a simple thing, but there are many types of notification, right? There are pop-ups, there are emails, there are, the aim is to have a dashboard here, right? So the dashboard would potentially show information, right? What does that look like? Do I put a bunch of notifications on here these are just like the instant notifications? Hey, something happened, you might want to check it out. Or do I put the actual notifications in there because they need to check on it and I want to track them in the dashboard? There's all sorts of other things going on, right? So I kind of, just a quick brainstorm of this, right? I said, okay, well, I want to add notifications when a user cares about a planning item. Okay, well, right now I don't have the idea of seeing another person's planning item, so I have no permissions in place. So I got to fix that. I don't have any discoverability, and again, if we're developing this application and we're trying to move forward with components and systems, the product team might say, "Oh, we now need to know when the planning item has been dealt with, so or it's been changed. So you need to notify people, right? So you need to stop and ask some questions, and like the first one is, well, who's allowed to see it, right? We don't have the concept of permission right now, so anyone in the tenant, right, should be able to see the data, right? Because there is no permissions, right? Is that good enough? Is that enough? We haven't discussed it. I don't have any discoverability, so I need to search. So how does a person find a planning item, right? What do they actually do to get to this planning item, right? What does this process look like? Great. I can go in and add a planning item and assign it to me. I can assign it to someone else if I want to, but that doesn't mean that someone in product gets notified when it changes. How do they find this planning item? How do they know, right? So I need to talk about, I need to consider, I'm saying talk because I need to treat this like I'm working on a team, right? So I need to ask questions like, okay, well, what does discoverability look like? What do we need to actually do there? Because it's all very well to say, oh, well, we've got planning items. Well, right. But the idea is that this shows the person who created them, or if they're assigned to me, right? So that's not really helpful. So, but we've built it to do this, right? And in reality, if a product was being developed this way, the likelihood is some of these things wouldn't have happened this way. The notifications wouldn't have been built yet. Yeah, product needs to see progress, right? So you've obviously built some things, but you've got to stop and think about the impact of everything, right? So the concept of projects, right? Right now, I have planning items. There's no cohesiveness. There's nothing to tie these things together, right? It's like initiatives is one thing, but right, is initiatives projects? Is initiatives like, what are we talking about, right? So how do we pull these things together and group them in a meaningful way? Does notification do certain people want to always be subscribed to an email digest when it's part of a plan, right? There's a whole different thing, right? Yes, exactly. Initiatives might span many projects, right? Because an initiative is just that, right? So many projects might come together as part of an initiative. Like if you've got route planning and you've got milk delivery and you've got engineering or something, but they all have this new system of things need to be fitted. Each project has a component of that initiative, right? So, yeah, an initiative, that's a good point, Dota. And good morning, by the way. I'm just joining into the conversation with you, but initiatives can be a more what's the word? I'm not quite sure, but like a more short term or more targeted thing like that, clean up the code base, right? There could be an initiative to clean up the code base or to remove certain elements of the system. And again, it could span multiple projects. So the concept of projects comes into play, right? So it's all very well and good to say, I need notifications. But what does that mean, right? So concept of projects, right? There's an easy identifier. I don't have any way of identifying a project right now. So right now, if I said, hey, go find this, well, I have no method of doing that. I have no identifying features. I have no searchability, no discoverability, right? These two kind of go hand in hand, discoverability and this thing. But developing some sort of system to assign an identifier to a planning item that is easily searchable, right? Jira has the concept of the planning boards, and the planning boards have or a project, and the project has an identifier attached to it, and the items created as part of that project are tagged with that thing, right? So, PRJ001, right? There's also themes, which are similar but different, I think. Products viewpoint is the epic, if you're talking about notifications for them. Well, this comes from, I want to develop notifications, but the need to do some planning and discussion. So as much as I don't want to do a stream that is most of me talking, this is really important to the product and I can't avoid it, right? So, and I think it's worth sharing because it's kind of, well, this is one of the things that teams miss a lot, right? Teams miss asking deeper questions, right? I could put I've got notifications to a measure in here, right? But what do notifications mean? And how do I solve the problem of noise? Right? Notifications, the dev PRV is ping the PR reviewer that needs to review the PR, right? So what I'm really focused on immediately is the automatic notifications, the ability to have the system tell people things are happening, the things that we often miss in the cycle of, right, where are we with this item, right? That question gets asked. We shouldn't need to ask that question. That question should be answerable by the person being notified of things, right? So I do want to, consider the different types of notifications, right? So the pop-up notification is the most intrusive. It's the most noisy, right? It's every single action will trigger it. So you might want to save that for extremely important things, right? You might want to save that for a planning item that you are really in need of knowing about when it changes. You might want to notify on change to that, right? But digests, email digests, reviews, etc. So the dashboard again, right? Coming back to the dashboard, maybe putting catalogs of notifications on here. Things you care about, but you can review when you choose. Well, that's added a commit to the PR. Give me a pop-up that commit is out there. That's, again, little fly. When we get to the stories side of things, notifications evolve again, right? Because it's those different things where the story has hit a point where people need to know about it, right? In a team, maybe subscription to notifications is kind of default, right? Or maybe QA, once it goes to QA automatically get assigned sort of thing or whatever. But there's different things that can be done. Since you're trying to MVP this, I think you want to really minimize the notification feature. But it's the selling point, right? If the notifications have to be of a measure to be demonstrable, because it is the thing that I'm focused on, right? It's the difference in what I'm doing. So if I don't focus on that as part of an early phase, all I'm doing is producing a product that you can track items in, and there's plenty of them, right? Too easy copy. I mean, notifications is a hard problem. If that's what you mean. But I kind of have to attack this to be how easy is it for Jira to copy it? Jira is too much of a mess. There's no way Jira copies that without an overhaul. And they might do. I mean, some products might do some variation of this, but I haven't seen them yet. Right? Jira does send a daily digest email. Right? Um, Jira does push emails when you change the status of things, but again, the noise. They get lost in the noise, and that's the thing. So one of the things I want to talk about is, I want to do, is kind of allow the person to add categorization and notes, so they can determine um, like the level at which they're notified, right? I'm just not sure they have to re-architect Jira to copy your own solution. No, no, they don't have to re-architect it, but there's a lot of structure in Jira that just doesn't work for this. Um, and again, my end focus is getting away from, and to be quite frank, I don't care. Um, like, I'd love to say this is a unique feature and that I'm 100% going to beat everybody else out there. But if Jira or other products were to come out with that same feature, does it hurt anybody? If the tooling improves to the point where you can be better at what you do? I mean, the goal here is to improve things, not to necessarily like, yes, I'd love this to be a product. I want this to be a product. I want to chase that dream, right? This is a product that people can use and people can benefit from. But yeah. So we have a chance to kind of shape the way things go, and I think that again will be very different approach. So the purpose of this was to kind of discuss, right? There are opposing forces sharing information, just so you know. Yeah, yeah. Um, some think you shouldn't share anything, others think you should share everything. Sorry. From a marketing stand-up even. Um, you mean from a like me sharing this idea, or me, or in general, like within teams sharing the like visibility into things? Core competencies will run faster than you. Doesn't matter what we tell you. Market forces capture market. Don't tell anyone anything. Yeah, yeah. So, um, hmm. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Um, hmm. So I'm contemplating like the direction, the ideas, right? Because again, this is often lost in personal projects because we're kind of developing. I guess core competency is kind of an HR take. It's sort of business also. Yeah, visibility. Um, Keeping hold of what you know and kind of keeping the secret sauce is um don't share information. Yeah, but Yeah, you do. I know. So, hmm, yeah. Well, again, the things I'm developing, the things I need to develop. So, yes, I kind of see the argument. Does MVP need notifications? Probably not to the nth extent, but I need a structure in place because of the same problem, right? If I build something that is quick to get to an MVP, how much work do I have to do to undo the quick and do the real thing, right? Because that will cost me even more time down the line, right? I need the foundation to be sturdy to build upon. So I need some level of configuration around the notifications, but I also need to identify what is feature creep versus quick is doing the right thing, maybe. In this instance, yes, quick doing the right thing now will make quick way more achievable in the future, right? So adding the extra richness to the notifications, flexing those notifications is going to make the difference, right? Down the line. If I do the quickest possible thing for notifications now, yes, I'll demonstrate that you can get notified on things happening, but it will look like noise, and that's not what I want to sell on, right? I want to sell on the idea of, okay, notifications are something that you can control, right? So you do not get noise. Let's say you're a product manager and you're adding these planning items into the system, right? You're going through, you're adding the planning items, you're configuring the requirements, etc. Does the CEO need to be told about all those actions happening? No, right? Does the CEO care when this planning item goes to ready for development or goes to um, a review phase or something? Probably, right? Do they care that moment? No, right? Do they care in a daily digest email? Maybe. Maybe they get the daily digest. Do they care on the dashboard? Maybe, right? Now, another problem with those daily digests is noise, right? If I've got 50 different items, I get an email that has a summary. This. Doesn't tell me what changed. Doesn't tell me who by. It just tells me these changed yesterday, right? So I've still got to now go through that work of going and clicking on each one, figuring out what's changed, right? I don't care, right? So when I set up notifications, categories, tags, notes, things that the user can add when they add a subscription, right, to help them organize it automatically when that message comes through, right? So I kind of see a matrix of some form of like, do you care about? And I think I kind of listed them somewhere. Did I not? I wrote them down somewhere. Oh, I know where I listed them. Um, blah, blah, blah. So in the current planning board, I started adding some items. I think you'd start with what's the one notification each user of software needs. Right. So again, what I've got to do is I've got to throw enough ideas at the wall right now, figure out an effective method for me breaking work into attainable versus dream list, right? And actually, to the point you made the other day, right? Kind of validating, okay, is this a need or is it a must? Is it valuable to MVP? Is it necessary for MVP? I need to evaluate each thing. So I do need to think beyond what it is I have and see what I need. Yeah, I've got to figure those things out and at least discuss them with myself. Is it this one? Yeah. So there's certain categories that things can fall into, right? So a review date changing. So again, review date is an important thing, right? If the review date is changed, do I care, right? If the review date expires, and that's another actually another thing to go in there. Right. So the review date is the date at which this item must be reviewed, right? No, it's a date to keep chasing, essentially. So the review date is a date on which notifications can happen because we've left this go too long. So you can't just stick things in the backlog, right? The idea of the entire system will be a review date must be attached. So once things go into the backlog, they'll have a review date, and every now and then they'll prompt an actual review, and the user will have to do something about the review date. Otherwise, it will sit there being an annoyance, right? Is the goal. So the review date is very much a concept, one of those key concepts that is, you can't forget about me, right? So this review date is when does this need to be reviewed next, right? Yeah. So the idea being there that, like, let's say we're working on a planning item and we say, okay, well, we need to look at this again in 2 weeks. We'd set the review date to that 2-week date time, right? If that expires, anybody who's subscribed to be told about that should be told, by the way, this expired, right? If it's changed, you might want to care. You might care about if it's changed, right? If the status changes, if it moves from one status to another, like it's open, it's now in progress, it's now marked as completed. It might do, yeah. And I'm kind of thinking about those being a configurable thing from the business standpoint, so people can't set silly like 6-month review dates. The idea is that the work is constantly in review. So while it's not being worked upon, it's being reviewed frequently. You need the concept to not exist in your software. It's the real thing you're trying to track, not some item in your software. Well, the individual features would have reviews, but it does align with that concept of reviewing in general. Yeah. What is this actually? I don't know how many meetings you've been in where it's like, oh, let's look at this again in a week. Let's review this next month. Let's push this off. Do that, right? That's why backlogs become a problem, right? Because they just get dumped in, and I go and talk about Jira, some software specifically, and think about in terms of tickets. Don't get me started. Yeah. So, review dates are things that can be cared, and maybe most people don't care about them being changed. They care about them being expired. Like, okay, why have we now forgotten about this item, right? So people could subscribe to that. The status when it moves from in progress. Each component of the system overall will have a different type of status, right? Where are you? The planning system, its statuses are going to be very small, right? It's basically going to be preparing, in progress, completed, essentially. There's not going to be a long-term thing. Whereas statuses on tickets, statuses on stories may be more granular. Overall, there's 3 buckets. Like, it's not been done, it's being done, it's completed, but being more granular there is optional. Details. So if you update the actual content, right, who cares, right? So that is the sort of thing where you might want to say, okay, well, I only want a daily digest of that sort of stuff, right? Because if it's changed, I do care why it changed, but I don't really need to know, right? Requirements, if we add or remove requirements, etc., though you could notify on them. Notes again, and attachments, right, when things change. And there's other things. These are just the first categories that I'm going through now as a thought, and building out the concept of 1 or 2 of these is going to be my goal, right? probably requirements, review date changed, review date expired will be my focus. So talking about the features, these are the first set of categories I'm thinking about. But again, these are planning notifications, right? And again, pop-up, dashboard, daily digest email, right? How do you want to be told about them? And one of the things I'm considering is the goal of allowing you to kind of tailor the categorization even more, so that it kind of, you might be able to tag things, right? This is urgent. I care about this more than this. I care about, like, kind of flags, essentially, that item will be more prominent. Or maybe you want to say, oh, well, if the details change on these items, I only just care about being told that they did change. I don't care about the specifics. But these items, I actually care about why it changed, right? What content changed. So maybe my daily digest contains that, right? There's all sorts of other options there. And the deeper I get, the more work it is. But again, one of the key pieces along with that review date is this concept of not making this noise. How do I avoid that becoming noise? And the depth of notifications is going to need that sort of customization to avoid that noise, because there's nothing worse than an email that has 50 items in it that you don't know why they changed or what they changed or whether you care, right? Again, discovery, maybe certain people on a project always want to be subscribed in a basic way to all things. So that the idea of templated notifications, where it says, okay, well, who cares in this project or this planning item or this initiative about these things? They will always be attached in this form, so they get notified, right? And maybe that's the briefest. Maybe that's you'll get a daily digest to say things happened, which gives more discoverability and cuts down the noise, but helps with the identifying. Yeah, kind of like the following the stock market. Some people prefer looking at it once a quarter or weekends, others every day. Yeah. So giving that ability to kind of say, here's what I care about, and being able to tag the things that are, like, if you've got a stock that's looking good, you're going to check on it every day. But but you might want to put a notification, oh, if it jumps more than 3 points, I want to be told, right? So that's the sort of thing you want to say, hey, if this changes in this way, I actually do want to be notified by a pop-up, or I do want to be told on my dashboard that this has happened, right? So pop-up and dashboard, maybe, right? You want both notifications. So being able to control that. Individual stocks, I don't understand. I check the index instantly or a dashboard. Okay. So, but the general concept, being able to review or target certain things and keep an eye on things to a customizable depth, I think is what helps cut down the noise, right? Because it's going to be important, because there's a lot of things that can change, right? Tracking changes, tracking things that have changed and why they changed, is something that people do want to do. I guess I get titles and news stories also, but I'm not sure if the stock analog actually helps. The analogy might not be that close, but it is. The idea is you want control of when you see information, right? So the concept is still there, right? In a system of this size, once this grows, right, what does it look like to most users? Well, again, the idea of any software should be, it just makes your job work that much better, right? It should not be in the way, right? Good software it helps you, it never hinders you, and you are not changing your practices necessarily to suit it, right? right now, this is a concept that PMs have to go through, right? This isn't necessarily new. This is just a way of structuring the thought, right? You need to design a feature, gather the requirements, put these together for developers to review with them to decide what a story is, right? This is an aid, right? It's aimed at getting that information, structuring it in a nice, clean, buildable way, and then being able to develop that, and also then telling the people who care, right? Oh, this has actually gone, right? So maybe a developer, when they're working on this as a planning item, says, oh, I actually want to know when that goes to become a story, right? And they mark themselves as a subscriber to that, right? And they say, okay, I want a daily digest email, I want a dashboard notification, I want a pop-up notification when this actually changes. They have that option, right? The developer themselves can keep track of that. So they can see when a planning item becomes a story or becomes many stories, etc. There's that concept. Going beyond that, again, beyond MVP, when I get to the point of promoting planning items to stories, do notifications carry over? Right? Do I now subscribe to the new items I created in the same way I subscribe to the old one? Or do I provide an ability to say, hey, by the way, this planning item became these stories. Do you want to be notified of changes to these stories, or are you good? Right? So my brain's whirring. There's lots of different ideas coming through. I've got to figure out an effective way of capturing a lot of these things, but I also have to keep focused on what is MVP. And I think from an MVP perspective, building out a few of the categories and building out the mechanism with which I'm doing it is going to be the most important piece. But I've got a long way to go before I get there, because I've got to do the wire up. I've got to prepare the actual system to be able to support this concept, right? Setting the status of a planning item, right? That is a thing. And I actually need to stop doing that, because I need to actually make these kind of epics. Sorry. When I get a planning item, this might be a very small thing, but it is, okay, what status is it in, right? How do I know which ones I've finished here, right? I also need to consider, what do I do with review dates, right? How does that matter for the user, right? I need to also figure out navigation, because clicking the entire item is friendly for mobile, but not very friendly for desktop. So what does it mean to have a review date expired? Well, honestly, I think that's a UI concept, right? It's more of a UI thing than it is, because it needs to, I think that's kind of a categorization, past due, and upcoming. So past due will always sit at the top, so you have to get them out of the way, or you have to set their review dates, right? I don't have the ability to edit yet. I don't show that information. And again, I was kind of toying with this design when I kind of stopped and thought, I probably need to do a little bit more here, right? So I was kind of thinking about this as a design. From the UI perspective, from the behavior perspective as well, I've also been reviewing other... Come on. I don't know why you can't take me to the navigation bar the moment I click. Creating account, adding and creating. This is probably the closest in visual concept to the planning items. So it's not necessarily what I want, but it's kind of the closest in concept. A lot of these UIs I'm noticing don't like the constraints, right? So the cards works for me. I kind of like the design, but it doesn't work in general. So maybe I want to consider opening this up. I don't like the bright white. But dark mode doesn't work for this either. For me. Because it would be an awful lot of dark. So I need to consider that aspect. But I've noticed there's a card. That's a kind of card's approach to it. That's kind of a call out though, but there is a card there with that. Iconography. There's all manner of things that I will defer to a UI UX person if I can afford to hire someone, because I think it's just more valuable. I don't necessarily need a feed. I don't like this look for planning items. I know this is as inbox, but like the planning items being all boxes and sat around, and I don't mind the new doc concept. This button, I like that as a way to inject into the page, or even if it does a pop up. Let's see if that does actually add a tag. Tags, yeah. Let's go to strut. Was it strut there also? Super list. What was I on? Oh, yeah, strut. Okay. So adding a document. Of course you don't have that part. Creating a doc with strut AI. Ads are going to start shortly. If you get stuck behind ads, I do apologize. If you are watching and actually listening to what I'm talking about, you are more than welcome to engage. More than welcome to ask questions, add thoughts and opinions. I do not mind discussing what I'm doing. Adding a stage, creating a workspace, moving a doc to a stage. So I don't know. Still trying to get my head around this. Sorry. Adding a new doc. So when you click add new doc, you get the pop-up that's kind of nice. I like that. You get a new doc. You add that, you close that, and it adds a doc. Nice. That's not terrible. Like, if that was add a requirement instead of this pop out here, if that kind of, you added it and it replaced it, and then I don't know what would be terrible. So let's talk about how do I do this? How do I do this properly? I kind of need to do a bit of brainstorming, right? I kind of need to first master speaking, then speak. So one of the things projects so right now I have planning items and I have initiatives as a concept. And an initiative kind of was meant to be kind of a grouping of planning items. A few got done. My lightning talk for tomorrow. Topic is side projects. Nice. That's cool. Doing a talk. That still terrifies me, by the way. I do this all the time. And talking about talking about software development and still scares me. Okay. So, teams, projects, planning items. Starting to get a domain. Planning items, or several domains. And initiatives. Pardon me. I think I swore them. I don't know if I actually was audible. I almost ruined the page I was on. I'm kind of scribbling down ideas. So I'm starting to learn the chaos is alive and well in my head here with this stuff. So is it what's Figma Jam? What is that? It's a whiteboarding thing, right? Mind map. Yeah, I don't need a. Oh, yeah, okay, so that's the jam part is that. So I'm going to try and use the tablet. Mind map. So planning is my overall thing, right? Planning items have requirements. Notes. Attachments. This is not the most intuitive tool to use for mind mapping, that's for certain. Can't remember what the other one I use is. It's just really nice. You just tab and it hits to the next one. Initiatives. Planning items. Thank you for watching ads. If you were stuck behind ads there, I apologize. How do I do this properly? The idea of a mind map is to kind of flow, not to actually just stuck on the design of the mind map. Delta, thank you very much for the discussion. As always, have a great day at work. I appreciate you. And I'll see you again soon. Have a good one. So initiatives. teams. How do you add projects? So that one is Control Shift Enter. That one's Control. So that's yeah, okay. Control Shift Enter adds it below. Right. Control Enter adds a new child. Okay. So does the teams and projects? Oh, that's not good. The teams and projects. It's organizing that much. So, is a team a project or is a project? I don't believe so. From my initial notes, when I was thinking about this, a team can span many projects, right? A team is a group of people that are put together. But does a team really exist? Do people just get to have access to projects and they can work together? Like, is a team a concept I need to represent, or is the project? And I think Jira presents projects and we kind of align them with teams, but they're not necessarily teams. So do I need the concept of teams at all? Does a team add value? Like, what would a team represent in the software, right? A team would be a group of people, and I'm talking myself straight out of that. No, teams doesn't exist. Teams does not exist. Projects exist. Do projects exist? This is going to be a fun one, right? So if you're just joining me, I'm not doing a lot of development right this second. I do have a thing to show if anybody's interested. What I'm trying to do is formalize some of my ideas and my plans so that I can actually design the pieces of software I need to write rather than just kind of flowing through into the next thing. And I'm sharing this on stream because I think it is something that people do lack. The analysis component of software development is often overlooked. And I've worked on so many teams where you say, okay, any questions? And the developers sit there and go, no questions. And it's not they don't care, it's they just don't want to get engaged with that aspect of it, because then a meeting might go longer or whatever. It's that they're not asking these things, they just want to get on with the work. But the problem is the work can explode if we don't ask questions. So I'm kind of going through that path. So if you're interested, if you want to ask questions about what I'm doing, or you want to see the software that I'm building, you're more than welcome to ask. This is a project I work on 3 days a week on stream. I do work on it off stream as well. It is a product that I'm trying to build. But I'm trying to share this aspect from my perspective, right? From my chaotic development brain, trying to fill all roles at once. So I am more than happy to discuss this if people are interested. So what I'm kind of working on right this second is this organizational step, right? So I have planning items, and I've got this concept of initiatives, right? What I'm trying to decide is if a project exists outside of planning, and what does a project involve, right? Or does a project exist under each component? I think it doesn't. I think it spans multiple parts. Go bring up localhost 5000 for this one. Because ticketing, planning, etc. Probably better to do it that way. These are the individual components of the system. Tickets, from an organizational perspective, benefit from being, categorized, right? A ticket is not just a ticket. A ticket might be assigned to a project. So again, yeah. So is a project just a label? Is a project just an actual organizational label of work? And then we kind of group by that to decide projects. So initiatives are a concept under planning items 100%. But again, kind of a label. Initiatives, projects, all they are is a label. I mean, if I found they were more involved later, kind of a team is a label, right? Do we need to represent the organizational structure inside of the software? No, we don't need to say, okay, well, this dev is on this team and that dev is on that team, unless we have permissions. Why are you going twice? So for now, could I get away with an initiatives label? So on the planning item, when I create it, if I have a project label and an initiatives label, right? So the initiatives may or may not be filled. The project label can be filled. A single planning item. Okay. Next question. And again, I'm just trying to explore my design here. I'm trying to stop. Before I go and add more code that again could become technical debt if I'm wrong, right? I'm trying to explore my design and push my thought to what do I need versus what do I want, and is this thing something, right? Initiatives don't necessarily sit in MVP, but projects, if I don't introduce the concept of projects, it's going to be very hard to kind of visualize the organizational structure of the application because people don't think like that, right? They don't think it's like, oh, it's just one big mind dump. I could put labels on here. I could put all sorts of stuff on here, but it's not really going to help management of this. Okay. Why did you just go away? My chat window just disappeared. Where? Widgets, docs. Where's it gone? So unfortunately, my second monitor has decided it's not going to work on my stream PC today. So my prompter has become my monitor. Exit that. So I'm trying to get the chat back because it's useful to see it up there. Where have you gone? This is madness. Docs? It's just disappeared. It's just not on my screen anymore. Not helpful. I'm going to test something. Make sure it goes in. Okay, I'll deal with that. Okay. I just had to bring up a browser window. Just give me the ability to do that. And full screen it. Nice. Okay. So projects are a thing, right? I think projects are a thing. And they're defined at the tenant style level. I say tenant style level because it's kind of the administration of the application. Okay. But if a project is just a label, yeah, I still need to share consistency of that label. Yeah, without a doubt. So if I have a project labeled in here in planning, I want that project label to be available in ticketing, but I don't want planning to own that label. So it has to exist above. It has to kind of exist at tenant management level. And actually there's a tenant management should be about the tenant. Do I organize this slightly differently? Because right now tenant management is about user registration. I suppose I do provide the ability to register new users through here. And it is at the tenant level. Oh. So Malwarebytes has just wanted to tell me that it's protecting me well now, so now I've got a pop-up from Malwarebytes. Awesome. So I think that would kind of live at the tenant management level, but it's something I've got to consider more. And yeah, if you're just joining me, yes, I'm doing a lot of talking. Yes, I'm not doing a lot of coding. This is a thing that I think needs sharing as part of my process of showing what developing the software looks like. So you're more than welcome to join in. You're more than welcome to question. I'm happy to discuss. So if an initiative is a label, initiatives exist at the planning items level for certain. I don't think they exist. Well, they exist, but label. And I think that is kind of a label. It's tenant management. Problem is that's gonna. Good afternoon, I'm Geek. How you doing? How are things? Tenant management. I'm still not sold on that idea. That might be a separate system. Not too bad. Good to hear it. So what I'm talking about today is I kind of wrote this article the other day on, I'm building a solo project. I'm going to kind of focus my energy to make sure that I am actually developing what I want to develop, right? And and I'm building the features that are needed for the project to proceed as a product, right? And the downfall of, just throwing more code in there, just throw more code. So I want this feature, but what does this feature cost, right? So I'm stepping back and saying, okay, well, let's do a bit more analysis of the system. And I realize I've got a whole load of missing components that I need to build out. So I'm kind of sharing that discussion and that thought process to tighten up that idea. So my end goal here, or my immediate end goal for the next couple of months, is to get a notification system in, so that a user signed into the system can be told about the things they need to be told about when they care, right? With my key focus being on reducing noise, right? Notifications are often just a fire hose, right? They're not. They lose their value when notifications are just thrown at you. And being that this system, one of my key goals is to make it so that the system actually is giving you the information you need without you having to go ask for it. It is a fundamental product feature. Sorry. I do sleep. I did a kickboxing class last night for the first time in like 3 months. And I'm not a big believer in taking it easy when I'm doing something like that. So I'm a little worse for wear today. Let's talk about this. So we're gonna permissions. So that did give the if I do have a project, do I get to set who can see the project? In which case, a project is not just a label, a project is a concept of, yeah, certain people can see, right? How do I share that? Oh, huh. Like, the individual components of this aren't overwhelming. The sheer number of little pieces I need in place to actually effectively do what I want to do is sizable. We'll go with that. So, search. Mm. Like if I have roles and stuff, then individual components of the system can understand the roles, can understand the actual permission labels. So permissions aren't necessarily something I need to kind of produce, but do I need the concept of per user? Like, okay, well, only these users can see these initiatives. It kind of flies in the face. MVP, could you be overthinking it? Yeah, that's why I'm doing this. Because the problem I have, MVP for this product has to demonstrate not only the review date component of it, but it has to demonstrate the notification component, because it is the piece that I'm saying I believe is the differentiator, right? So the MVP has to contain those things, right? But how do I scope them down? And this is why I'm going down the line of dreaming up the features, because I can try and rein them back in, but I need to dream to where I want to head and decide, okay, what is the cutoff, right? So the cutoff for where are you? Where are you? You are here. So I have the notifications kind of laid out as a epic thing here, right? So when work is discussed between teams and colleagues, it oftentimes falls on a single person to go off and capture that work. If a user cares about the progress of the work or the discussion that's occurring about it, they rely upon others to let them know about this, right? So that's the whole, where are we with this thing, right? That's the, I should call this product, where are we? Um, um, so the ability to kind of trigger notifications happening and what type of notifications you get. So maybe I don't do all of these initially, but I do a few of these and kind of break down the categories of notification. Because again, if I just do pop-up notifications for everything, that's just going to demonstrate really badly, right? So I've got to figure out how to demonstrate the concept of the notifications without adding every single possible notification in there and going too far. But the article that I wrote, and again, I'm going to try and do more of these as I think about the software, kind of goes into, okay, well, I've got this idea, but what do I need to achieve that idea, right? So right now I don't have the ability to see planning items for other people, right? So I do need some level of visibility. I have no discoverability, right? Is search necessary? Yes, kind of, unless I just display everything to everyone all the time, which is not good because it's just noise. Again, there's no, then I could end up putting features in. If I release that as an MVP, my user base is going to drive their requirements off of what I've delivered, right? Even though that wasn't in my vision, they're going to build their knowledge of the system off of what I've delivered. So that can't be there from MVP. I can't just dump everything in there because that doesn't demonstrate the system I want to build. That demonstrates, here's some data, right? So minimum viable product, it would be bad to send the users in a direction of, here's the product. Oh, but I'm going to change all that later. You can just imagine it looking different, right? They're not going to do that. They're going to start building their workflows around it. And I get it. It's not a real product yet. It is something I want to make a product. These are dream ideas, but I'm treating it like I am, right? Because it is real. If you were going to deliver a product, if you deliver the product in a rough way that doesn't demonstrate the things that separate you from other things, A, people lose interest. B, they may decide it may drive their feature requests in the wrong direction that you're then going to go and overhaul anyway. So yeah, so visibility, discoverability, search, etc. I need to, right? How deep I need to go on the search is another question, right? I need to go deep enough that you can find something, but I don't need to go deep enough that you can find a word in a note, from 6 months ago, right? That's not where I need to go. I need to go to, can I find a title? Can I find a description? Can I find a tag or something. The concept of projects, right? I need some organizational thing. Otherwise, this is not going to be very easy to understand because it's just going to look like a bunch of items on a page. So I need some level of organization. I need this needs some filtering, which project are you working on, etc. Or maybe project is a concept at this level and everything switches to that project. Maybe. But MVP might be the drop down on the page. There's no identifiers, right? I can't refer to a planning item by a clean identifier. I need that feature. That has to be there because it's a fundamental thing in all ticketing planning. There's an identifier that you can, a user readable identifier that you can share that can get you to that project, right? So maybe that aids with the discoverability a little bit. Maybe I can just make the discoverability searchable on that, but I kind of need that concept in there. And then some level of configuration on the notifications, right? I do want them to be configurable. I do want to demonstrate the different types of notification. So I need to build them into MVP. So again, it's kind of what is a dream versus what is an actual need. And I think that from an MVP perspective, I do myself a disjustice if I demonstrate a system that is not where I want it to be heading. So I have to have certain aspects in there. So this is what I kind of started to think about as I built it through. And, it is a solo project, right? It is easy to go off and just write code. But this is the reality of software development in that analysis is a big chunk of actually writing a good system. It's not just about the code. It's not just about getting things on a screen. There's a lot more, and we should ask more questions and stop. So I'm asking myself those questions and trying to determine the overthought. That's where we are. So here, yes, some of this might be, okay, what do I need? Well, initiatives I don't actually need for MVP, right? Initiatives are nice to have. They're kind of grouping. And as going through this with Dota earlier on, initiatives actually could span multiple projects, right? So initiatives might be something that I don't want to do in the short term. Right. Projects. They could be just a label. Unless I introduce user permissions, right? DJ Malboy, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome. If you have any questions, thoughts, or whatever. Is it a SaaS project? Pretty much, yes. There's no way this is getting delivered as infrastructure. So yeah, this would be a SaaS project. I've been building this project for several months. No, it is not open source, sadly. Oh, nice. This is a project I do intend to build as a product. So it is something I'm sharing later down the line. Open source is not off the cards, right? But right now it's something I'm building very much for myself. Oh, what happened to that? Oh, sorry. GitHub. Nice, thank you. So the overall project is an Agile Project Management Platform. The goal being that what I'm trying to do is build something that is helpful to a developer. So right now, what we have working is I'm focused on the planning aspect first. So the idea would be that you create a product manager or a manager of some form would add a planning item. And what I'm trying to differentiate between here is these are the things that are kind of in their heads and things they want,
but are not stories yet, right? I don't want these to get in front of a developer and become a story until they're thought out and planned. So the goal right now is you add, you know, projects need to be created. We need to be able to build. We need to be able to add a project and categorize planning items by project, right? And we want to say, and this is a concept, everything has a review date. So we're going to say this needs to be reviewed by the 1st of May. And it's going to be assigned to me, right? I'm Jane Smythe, not whatever. So when I create that, that will allow me to go down here and see that. And then to this planning item, I can add requirements, right? So what do I actually want this to look like, right? So I need to be able to say, should see a button, should see a panel in the preferences screen. Actually, sure, yeah. And then kind of describe what it is I'm expecting to see. This would be an actual larger text box. It's not meant for a kind of one line. Panel should be titled projects, right? And the idea will be that you kind of are trying to define what the requirements of this planning item are, right? A planning item may become one or many stories, right? So once you've gone through the planning item, the idea would be discuss this with developers. There's notes, attachments, etc., screenshots, etc., can be reviewed. And from here, you can say, okay, well, these requirements kind of fit a story here. We can build one story off that. These requirements become that story, and you can generate the actual stories that are going to come off this. So it's kind of a discoverability phase. When you'll see this number is changing here. So when things change and register in the back end, notifications come through. And this is kind of what I'm talking about very much today, is this concept of notifications. And that is a GraphQL subscription. And the reason being that came in after the fact is because the system is designed in such a way. And I'm not worried about people trying to copy this right now because it's kind of a lot of software. So the client here goes through an API gateway. So when I'm adding information, those requests went into the planning component of the system, but it is very much a bunch of mini monoliths, essentially. I'm kind of calling them components because one section here may have one or many services, is likely to have an API, has its own data. So there is a database specifically for planning. What happens is when I add that, it publishes to Kafka, and then the view database over here compiles that view, and I'm using GraphQL to query to the client. So the client is being able to query that, and there's a GraphQL notification, a GraphQL subscription, so that when I push that notification, I'm subscribed to that and I get notified. So that's why that real-time notification came through, is this was telling me, by the way, this is now there. It's actually on the view database. So there's a lot of technology in play. This is just skimming the surface of what I'm doing. But I'm focused on planning items initially because it's the most constructive piece that will allow me to kind of demonstrate all the concepts and build out the features. And also it's a useful component for me to build upon, because then once I get to a certain point with this, I can actually start using a version of this for my own planning and actually plan the future product out using my own software. So that is what I'm building. The reason I'm building it is I've worked with lots of different software over the years. I've worked with different processes. I've worked with different teams. And I feel that the biggest challenge we have is visibility. And also just work being piled up with no review, so there ends up being this, again, where are we with this? What happened to this project? Where's that thing happening? So what I'm trying to avoid here is a backlog of dreams, right? If this becomes a list of things that never get done, that's on the planning aspect, right? The product team can own this. The product team adds the requirements. They define things, and the stories are generated off of these things, right? You'll be able to add a story later on, but the idea is not to build up a backlog. And this review date is a constant nag, right? So the idea of the review date is I set that 2 weeks out. This planning item now needs to be, it will prompt me in 2 weeks to say, by the way, this is due for review. You should do something with this. And this screen will very much become, the list of items that I need to work upon. So that is what I'm building. This is about 6 to 8 months worth of work so far. So we have, and we have the ability to, where are you? What is it? Now. Sorry. So if I sign it, I want to sign up a new user. You think I know this password? I proceed. Still refinement required there. Why are you not showing that? Oh, there you go. That's a control that needs some more work. When I register, what that will do is it will actually sign up that new tenant. It will allow me, it will send an email to the user, which I need to verify, and then I'll be able to sign in. So now I can go and sign in. Hopefully. Let's find out. Accept that. And now I shouldn't see a lot of planning items because it should be for a different tenant, right? So now I can proceed. So these are the features I've got working so far from a visual perspective. And what I'm doing today is kind of discussing more about what the future looks like. What pieces do I need to build? What pieces do I need to actually kind of story, right? To move forward with the project as a whole. So what we've just seen there is planning items with requirements. We've seen tenant management from a registration perspective. Interesting. You never sent an email. Oh, there it is. I got the email. So that is Agile Project Management Platform, or Liquid Sky as its code name is. Lots of moving parts. We've got some Kafka, we've got some Service Bus, we've got some GraphQL, we've got some Angular, Auth0. Right. There's a lot of different technologies, a lot of different products in play throughout this right now. SQL Server, Couchbase was in there. It will be again. Yeah. So an actual distributed system. Ooh, been looking forward to this. Maybe drink water next week will be smoother because of 2024. So what I want to do is I need to think through this and decide what is a dream feature, what is a needed feature, what pieces do I need to achieve um, what pieces do I need to achieve this bare minimum notification functionality. I didn't even know that was enabled, but okay. Okay, so 2024 sticky lines, that's a nice feature. New monitoring window, nice. When it comes time to worry about memory and stuff, that'll be a challenge. Collections visualizer, nice. Update new project dialog, cool. UX UI, new project dialog, option to scale down the entire IDE. This is scaled up for the stream. Revamp tool and terminal window, some C# support, more conversion for expression, collections, formatting members update. Nice. Come on. Change signature refactoring, high resource utilization, F#. Not what I'm after. Nice. Hot reload for Blazer Wasm. That'd be nice. AI assistant, I don't have enabled because I'm not paying for an extra AI assistant or Real Engine. Unity. Godot. Oh, poor Godot. It gets one change at the bottom. Cool. Editor code reviews, that's nice. Database work, fine. Plugins, .NET Aspire, nice. Cool. Ooh. Very cool. I've been looking forward to that release, so nice. We'll give that a test on Monday. But for right now, I need to figure out this. So again, this all comes from me kind of analyzing like how do I get notifications in there? What do I need, right? And I think what I need to do a few things. So again, right now, I don't have the ability to see planning items for other people, right? So what does visibility look like? What do permissions look like, right? How do I tackle that part? Well, planning items right now are on the page. So anyone who logs in would actually see all the planning items for the same tenant, I believe. So that's good. Um, but so permissions wise, do I need to worry about anything right this second? I don't have the ability to see planning items for other people. So maybe that is a drop down on here of me, all, etc. So drop down me, everyone. Right. So just items assigned. Is it assigned to me? It's assigned as well. Created by doesn't really matter. Assigned to does matter. So it's assigned to me. I'm just making a note down on a piece of paper, by the way, just because it's simpler than trying to write everything down. Note everything down on here. So visibility wise, it will be sufficient. And again, not the long-term goal maybe, but it is sufficient to say, okay, I want to see items assigned to me or assigned to everyone, right? That gives me the visibility. I don't have any discoverability, right? So if I want to see, if I've got a screen full of planning items, what do I do? Right? That's a lot of information. So what do I do there? Hmm. Oh, sorry. Um, so discoverability is so I need search. And right now, just title and description. So I think there, again, maybe utilize this. So that might be overcomplicated, but it kind of starts to get that concept in there. So search, so kind of panels and categories, right? So we need to design a search component that is going to be, when I type in here, I see a panel up here and it has planning items as a category and finds that planning item, because initiatives wouldn't be searchable. So really planning items is kind of the only thing. So yeah. Again, initiatives, projects, they're kind of labels on a thing, right? So it's okay to show what project. We do need the idea of projects. So projects. So to do projects, again, this is why discussion is important, right? You can't just say, oh, I need this, I need this, I need this. If you let your product team dictate how everything works, right? Just dictate, oh, I need this now, I need this now, I need this now. And you go off and try and do that. The discovered work, and that's kind of why I'm talking about discovered scope discovery versus feature creep, right? Like the scope of the work needs to be kind of thought out ahead of time. You can't just rely upon a product manager saying, oh, I need this piece of work. You need to dig deeper. You need to ask more questions, because again, I need the ability to add projects, right? Where in my current system do I have that concept? Well, I have the settings button down here. I've not used it yet because that's just in the demo. That's in the layout that I copied, right? So is this useful? Do we want settings here? And it takes, that's because it's redirecting because I'm logged in, right? But if I click on settings, do I see a panel and what does that look like, right? So there's way more involved, even if it's just a simple add, right? There's still way more involved. What does adding a project look like? Is it just a label right now? I think it is. It's a categorization, right? But that's step one. So just being able to assign a project to a planning item is a whole set of stories, right? So discovering that work, talking about it, asking the right questions, right? Making sure you understand what the UI should look like, because I don't know if any of you have dealt with, hey, I need this feature. Go off, deliver feature. Well, I didn't think it would look like that. But why didn't we do this? Well, you didn't tell me what it should look like. You kind of just gave me a requirement to do it, and we kind of have those sorts of screens, so I just kind of made it fit. I did the work. Yeah, but it didn't look like I thought it should look. So you end up with a churn. So being clear about requirements, being clear about visuals is very important to try and move this forward, right? So I need to consider what I was like. I have the benefit, it's a solo project. I can make it up as I go along. That's perfectly fine. But it's not genuine to demonstrate that if I'm trying to say, hey, this is how I develop software. Because realistically, I'm a giant pain in the backside, right? Because I push. I don't like to be just told, hey, go do this. Because it's never right. There's always a quirk. There's always something different. Hang on, look. Need to finish writing an email. No worries, Shy. Thank you very much for the look. Appreciate it. Hope you are well. So yeah, this stream has been a lot of conversation, right? It's been a lot of discussion. Well, not some discussion early on, a lot more of me talking to the camera and kind of going over what I intend to do. But I think, again, from a demonstration perspective, it's kind of what you need to do. You need to stop and think, okay, well, there's a knock-on impact of adding this thing, right? Just to add a project, right? What does adding a project mean? And if I want to consider it as part of MVP, sticking it in somewhere might not be the best demonstration of that thing, right? Because it might, again, engage the users. Because I get this product to MVP, I put it live, I share it on the stream, say, hey, you can go and register, right? You're more than welcome to go register. There's a certain number of seats available. You can go register a tenant. You can add some planning items and tinker with it. I'd appreciate it, right? You become my customers. Whatever I present at that point is what you think the software is going to do, right? Unless I can sell a very clear vision of what it can be and what it will be, which I don't think I would be able to do, then I'm going to get stuck trying to present to you something that isn't real. So having at least the basics of the flow, the workflows, the items in there is necessary. So the concept of projects, that comes with new screens. It comes with new things, right? So new screen for management, right? And that's the management of this customer's tenant, right? So again, permissions wise, that person has to have the right permissions. Otherwise, everyone in the tenant's going to be able to do that sort of stuff. Sorry, I'm just confirming something. So again, these are things that I need to I need to kind of figure out. So new screen, planning item now needs the ability to set the project it's on, right? And if we're being realistic about it, you need to be able to filter list by planning item. So again, they kind of, just that one little bullet point here, right, explodes the need. I've now got at least 3 stories, probably more, to develop the pieces necessary. Now, some of those you could say, okay, well, actually, that's not needed for MVP. We can drop that. But at least you've thought it through. You've kind of gone through that concept. You've gone through those pieces and asked those right questions, and you know what you're aiming for. You've got a plan, right? There's an easy identifier I can refer to. I need that. I apologize for ads. I didn't warn in time. I think I'm going to go back to the minute 30 every half hour ads. Um, so an identifier is going to be necessary for a project, right? So that actually goes back to the project is not just a label. The project has an associated tag with it. So if I'm going back here, then projects, right? So you need a prefix. Right. So a project is more than just a label. Already identified that, just through thinking through that, right? A project comes with a prefix. So if projects are owned at the tenant management level, which again, I'm still not sure, there's not a tenant administration component here. That might be more appropriate. Tenant administration as a component. So tenant management is kind of yeah. Okay. So we'll let that ad play out, and then we'll kind of discuss what goes from here. So ads already finished. So thank you very much if you were behind the ads. I apologize. Fortunately, if you want to be a Twitch affiliate, you have to accept ads of some form. Otherwise, everyone gets pre-rolls, and I find them more obstructive. But running the ads means I remove the pre-rolls for, well, in this case, an hour, but I think I'm going to go back to the minute and a half thing. But anyway, so tenant management, however I define projects, whether they go in tenant management or I create a new component for those pieces, they kind of are global to the system, right? So planning items will receive a project, right? Ultimately, tickets will receive a project. Stories will receive the project when we get to those components, right? So projects are a little bit more involved. There's not just adding the item, there's publishing the data, there's actually wiring up the UI to do that, to hit the API, to create it, all manner of things. New stores. There's a whole lot of work involved just in adding a project, which is one label and a prefix, right? So, yeah, kind of exploring this work even further. And then notifications. Notifications are going to be a whole different piece, right? So once I've got the ability to add projects, once I've got the ability to add these filters and the search, etc., then everything kind of flows. I'm back from writing the email. How you been doing? I've been doing good, Shai. How about you? How's things? I am I'm trying to resist the urge to just keep developing, because developing is the fun part, right? Here, but kind of thinking through this. Again, I'll share the link to this. I'm going to eventually decide whether I want to put this on an actual. I have a domain. That's kind of what I've been talking about today. Is the whole fighting the urge to just develop and then kind of identify what I actually need for this notifications piece. Oh, I have a dog that is crying, so I will have to kind of finish up here, I'm afraid. But yeah, so what I'm going to do now, I'm not going to drag the stream down tomorrow. I'm feeling good for now. I hope they'll at least answer me back. It's been a week. Yeah. That not all companies are very organized. Some companies, I've had emails from companies months after the fact, which was infuriating. But so all I'm saying there is, I know it's kind of, you're anxious, you want them to proceed or not proceed, just let you know, right? Just like, if there was no set expectation of follow-up of communication, just try and relax on it, right? Yeah. I've had some very long processes for hiring and stuff, so it's not always easy. Okay, so we are going to. I know it's going to a game, but Fullbots is an awesome developer. He's doing planning a little bit, but we're going to go over to Fullbots. I'm going to go walk a dog. I will be back tomorrow with some actual development. I'm going to go off now. I'm going to build the stories for the things I've talked about today. I'm going to build them out, and feedback will be really helpful, because if it was my first ever interview and I couldn't practice before, yeah, I keep forgetting it was your first interview. Yeah, I mean, if you want to chat about it, I'm more than welcome. I'm more than happy to on Discord if you want to ask any questions or just vent. I'm okay to talk about that. But feedback is good. Unfortunately, because of the hiring, sometimes companies are backed up. Sometimes they've got other candidates scheduled weeks out. So you might not, they might be assessing other candidates, and so it could be several weeks. If they've not set an expectation on feedback, no worries. I'm just making the offer. Again, I've been there. I've done that a long time. I've gone to companies and never got feedback. I've gone to companies and got feedback almost immediately. Right. The hardest thing to accept is that we won't be proceeding. But I've heard that. I've interviewed at small companies, big companies, etc. Yeah, I just say try and not get too upset over it. Just give it time. Again, they could have their hiring practices could be there. They've got candidates lined up for the next couple of weeks, and for the next time, it's always good to say, hey, should I expect any feedback? or any response or any communication in any set window, or is it just you're interviewing other candidates and you'll get back to me eventually? I've already been refused a lot, so it won't be that disappointment. Yeah, but but every time you get better, every time you build. How soon should I expect feedback? That's a good question. Yeah. Hi, OneLine. Hope you're well. Don't know how much of this you've heard. My waffling today. Hopefully, it's been something of interest. Okay. Maybe if you got his email, maybe reach out and say, hey, just looking, do you have any feedback? And if they say we're not proceeding, it's always worthwhile to follow up and say, do you have any feedback on why? If they don't give that, because that can help your self-reflection and set you something different for next time. Can't hurt to ask, right? Nice. So cool. Well, I will keep my fingers crossed for you. I hope that that goes well, and that you get an answer. An answer is better than nothing, right? That's the key. I've been around, of course. So much left to do. I have my end date with Sogeti, so just trying to get things lined up, cleaned up, and documented up. Oh, nice. Wow, I didn't realize you were actually out the door, sort of. Like, I know you were talking about it, but I didn't realize you were actually like, okay, I'm done. So cool. Well done. I mean, you're not moving to greener pastures. You're moving to, yeah, I know these pastures, right? Full-time automated realms. Also, you're going full-time contracting, so you're actually just contracting. Nice. Ah, little fly. Okay. That's one thing I learned from my parents in school. Always circle back to them. Yeah. People are bad at communication, right? That's why I'm building a system that is meant to help with that entire problem. People get lost in what they're doing. They do not know about follow-ups, and they forget. So people are very bad at communication. Okay, so let's so OneLine, congrats. That's awesome to hear. Let's read over to Poolbox. He develops a game. His game is awesome. I really look forward to be able to play this. When he launches it on Steam, I will be an early adopter. Yeah, I will be back tomorrow. I will be prepared with some more stories. As you can see, the stories are starting to the depth is starting to increase as I'm getting more confident with what I'm doing here. I will go off and add the stories for my filtering, for my projects, for my assignments, etc. And tomorrow we'll start working on them and keep moving forward with this project. And I hope this has been useful. I hope this stream has been of some value to people in terms of analysis. And yeah, I will see you later all. Thank you. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.